actual fruit of the papaya. It has the capability of exfoliating, it brightens up the skin, enables a natural skin tone, and of course, it contains moisturizing, conditioning properties for the skin. Papain, often heard of. It's a natural enzyme with the ability to not only dissolve the dead tissues, but it also does so without damaging the living cells. It exfoliates for renewal of soft skin. Chymotrypsin is another enzyme from papaya. It's used in the desloughing phase of the wound care, and it also prevents infections in burns. Then, of course, we're also going to be looking at some polyphenols, and these may be found in the green skin of the papaya. And it is used to treat various chronic skin diseases found to be very beneficial in wound healing on a whole. And so here we're going to move now into our second objective. And in this objective, we're going to unveil some of the capabilities of papaya. And so you've gotten the facts already, and now it's time to review some research, experiments, and studies on the impact of wound care and healing using papaya. So our first experiment we're going to look at, it's part A. And here we see that papaya leaves have been used to evaluate wound healing on rats. And this study would have taken place in 2005. So here in this study, we have rats that have been divided in half. So half of them would have gotten 5 to 10% Vaseline. The others, papaya leaves applied, extract, and of course, we have some jelly for others. Now, this experiment was also repeated using the fruit of the papaya. What are the results and the findings? Well, there's strong documentation for acceleration of the wounds in rats. In addition, there's also been findings showing that papain was an active principal ingredient exerted the ulcer protective effect. Papaya fruit extract was found to possess anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antioxidant, and of course, these activities helped with chronic ulcers tremendously. In this experiment, it was also found that in 2015, when repeated, it was also found that rats tested with excision wounds were treated with papaya, this time using selenium for 10 days. And so with this second experiment, we see that not only is it used with natural, but we have the chemical, and we see the results here. It shows that there's a reduction of inflammation associated with the papaya, and there's also some oxidative damage. In addition, we also see that topical application of the mushed papaya pulp used on pediatric infected burns was effective in desloughing necrotic tissues, preventing infections, and also provided granulation of these wounds. In addition, we also found that green papaya was found to be more effective in comparison to the ripe papaya, because the riper the papaya became, it lost its papain and its polyphenols. So in conclusion then, papaya significantly accelerated wound healing. Note that several properties making it ideal for as a dressing agent for wounds. However, they also said that more studies are definitely required. And so, having gone through that experiment, we see that papaya has its share of work that it has been doing. With that, we're going to the next, which is an overview of polyphenols. It's a promising avenue in therapeutic solutions for wound care. And this is a documentation that would have been done of late, which is 2021. Now, in this special review, they're showing that advances in antimicrobial focus on the complexity of chronic wounds. They're highlighting wound dressing and the potential of polyphenolic agents as a natural antimicrobial product and strategies for stabilization. Why? Because chronic wounds have a regeneration process and it could easily be compromised and therefore prone to infections. So, what have the studies revealed? The studies, polyphenols, they found that it has very strong anti inflammatory activities and hence it accelerates the entire healing process. In addition to that, they also found that it can promote proliferation of cells and migration of the endothelial cells and fibroblasts as well. However, because of its natural origin, they can provide additional bioactivity. Therefore, more studies are recommended to establish the safety, effectiveness, and stability in dressings for the different types and stages of chronic wounds with regards to the delivery system. So just imagine looking at this orange, and those are necrotic tissues at the top. Just imagine how long it takes for those to infiltrate the orange. It's like thinking about a wound. So the last study that we're going to look at is an experiment that was carried out on pregnant women and C-sections, having had C-sections. Ooh, sorry about that. So this is a comparison of safety and efficiency of papaya dressings with hydrogen peroxide solution on patients who have had gaped wounds as a result of C-section, following the C-sections. So this study was carried out during an 8-month period on post-cesarean section patients with gaped wounds. There were 64 of them, and of the 64, 32 received hydrogen peroxide dressings, and 31 received papaya dressings, and one of these patients dropped out apparently. So what did the results show? The results and conclusion of this experiment, the papaya dressings were more efficacious, equally safe as compared to hydrogen peroxide dressings when used on wound preparations in the patients with post-operative gape wounds. So then, we've looked at 3 experiments and, of course, studies. What could we possibly learn from the 3 of these studies? Number 1, we can learn from the first experiment that green papaya fruit extract is loaded with nutrients and a multiplicity of benefits, which could provide great potential in wound care. And it could also be used in combination with chemical elements as well. What can we gather from the second study? We can gather the fact that given a product with a polyphenol included, having the correct proportion, along with an efficient delivery system, phenomenal results could occur in the healing process. Then, of course, lastly, but least not the least, our third lesson that we can learn is the fact that the use of papaya, when prepared properly, could be as safe and as effective as any other product used in wound care. So, let's say that you are impressed with papaya and you do have an interest. So, how do you go about using the papaya and how should it be prepared? This brings us to our next slide. And of course, first of all, if you are picking papayas, it means that you want to get a reputable source because you want to prevent pesticides and any other stuff that may be used in preparation of trees, papaya trees. Some people actually grow their own papayas to ensure that they're getting organic materials. Secondly, you might want to ensure that the fruit is full and ready for harvesting. Once you would have picked them, you would want to boil using boiled water or distilled water to wash the fruit so that the latex, much of the latex is removed. Again, you'd also like to peel fraction into the seeds, fruit, skin, the different parts of the fruit. You can then place it in the refrigerator covered, properly sealed, if you plan to use it within a week. However, if you wish to use the parts of the papaya for a longer period, then it would be better if you grate the papaya portion that you're using, rehydrate it into powder, and then you may package into small, clean bottles with labels. Now, with regards to use on the wound, you may then, if it's a dirty wound, you can use the solutions of your choice. If it's a dirty wound, you may wish to continue with your heavy scrub or whatever it is that you choose to use. But the last thing that you wish to use on the wound, the last product, would be salt and water. You can even soak the wound in salt water. But why are we using salt and water? It's an awesome astringent. It's also an equalizer and creates a great balance before applying the papaya. However, getting all of this correct is well and good. But there are some possible challenges here. What are these challenges? The question is, how much papaya are we going to apply? How often are we going to apply this papaya? Of course, the availability. We don't have papaya growing all year round. It's often seasonal. And so we can't often find it as readily available as we would like it. And so that produces a problem. And it also produces a greater challenge of allergic reactions. And so it gives you much to think about. And so, given that, again, the dressing is changed as often as needed based on the amount of exudate that's coming from the wound. That choice is based on the monitoring of the wound. Now, having looked at the depth of papaya and all the information you've already received, you might ask the question, what's the point in going through all of this when we have all of the ready-made wound healing products available, and of course you can get them off the shelf and there are lots of them on the market. So what's the point, you might ask? This takes us to objective number 3. Is papaya relevant today in wound care? Do we need it? Is it important? So with that said, according to the Journal of WOCN Review, all care providers should be exposed to the various methods of wound care. That is their response. In journal reviews, the use of sugar, papaya, and papain, fatty acids, and enlightens us due to the fact that we have global travel, migration, and the transfer of people everywhere. And therefore, it's a good idea for us to be well rounded. Why? Because even though lots of our countries use non traditional wound care, it's often practiced, still used, even though the synthetic drugs, they're all quite effective, we still have a lot of people who would prefer to use the traditional methods. And so a lot of our developing countries continue to use papaya due to economic and traditional values. So, what does that say to us? In spite of the limited research, so what does this say to us? It says that we can only look a few years now back at COVID. When COVID was out, we found that it wasn't easy to get drugs from elsewhere. And not only that, how long did it take? Something to think about. I like what Theodore Roosevelt says. He says in his quote, "It is better to have it and need it than to need it and not have it." And so I think that's much food for thought and for us to consider. Question then is tradition and economics enough for the use of papaya? That's also a question to ponder. Well, according to the latest article in WHAM Evidence Summary, which has just been lately documented in 2022, entitled Papaya Based Products for Treating Wound, the answer is no. Despite all the history, the studies, and previous clinical uses that we would have gone through, Solomos and Emily Hessler sees these as possible biases. And therefore, as a result of this view, many papaya extract products were withdrawn from some countries due to risk of anaphylaxis or allergic reactions. I smiled when I look at this because I'm very grateful for the fact that products such as milk and cheese, peanuts, and even ampicillin remain on the market. And so I'm pretty much grateful that we still have them. So the next question is, so then, does the verdict from Solomos and Hessler diminish or cancels out the potential of papaya in wound healing? No, it certainly does not. However, the next question is, how good is papaya on its own in wound care? So how do we answer this question? Is papaya good enough on its own? What then is the possible potential of papaya being used alone? If we look at this slide, we see that the skin's integrity is a very complex one, and therefore, when it is damaged, may require 4 stages or phases for healing: hemostasis, inflammation, proliferation, and remodeling. Hence, a number of phytotherapeutic agents, including medicinal plants, have been made available and could be used in the management of skin wounds. And we have a few here that we can look at and name. We look at neem oil, rosemary, shea butter, coconut, and jojoba oils. And there are many, many more. These are all beneficial and can provide moisture, nutrients, emolliency, skin toning, elasticity improvement, and of course, it can also improve and assist with the delivery system. So, the answer to your question regarding whether papaya is good on its own, yes, papaya is certainly good, but it is certainly so much better when added and combined with other beneficial natural ingredients. Having said all of that, then, we have now come to the final part of our presentation, which brings on the bigger questions. The bigger questions where all healthcare providers can have a part and participate. So, moving right along, we begin with a quote from one of the most brilliant men on the planet. Albert Einstein says, learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. Food for thought. Now, the big questions. And the big questions are what if these studies that we've just looked at are really correct? All of those studies from PubMed, Google Scholar, Formula Botanica, and others. What if, hypothetically speaking, if they're correct, is it then possible for papaya to assist in yielding these results? If so, how long will it take? So then I want you to just use your imagination just for a moment. We have an infected, just imagine for a moment, hypothetically, and just if. We have an infected wound, necrotic tissues, and gangrene possibly. What if we have an infected wound? How long will it take for all that slough to be cleaned away, desloughed, debrided, for you to end up with a clean wound? How long will it take papaya to possibly help and assist to get to a clean, complete healed wound? Or in the second instance, what if we have a second degree burn to the tummy? How long will it take this debridement for this wound to get to a clean, nice, clear, healed tummy? And the final one for consideration, here we have a feet that starts with a simple ulcer, not taken care of, breaking down, diabetic foot possibly, becomes infected. How do we end up there with an infection, gangrene possibly? With a foot looking like this, how long does it take for debridement, desloughing, and getting through all of this to possibly there? Again, why do I say assist? Because wound care goes beyond medicine. It goes beyond wound care. It goes to include good nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, fresh air, rest, trusting and believing that truly indeed these ulcers can be healed. And so, with that, Papaya Care needs your help. Help through clinical testing to unravel the above. How much time will it take? In conclusion, then, based on all of the results, the studies, and reviews carried out on papaya along with its components, we can all appreciate the magnificent attributes of this plant. However, we all can agree that wound healing remains a clinical problem, and correct, efficient wound management is definitely essential. Much effort has been focused on wound care, hence, we continue to have emphasis on new therapeutic and technological approaches. So, with that, these are resources having used PubMed, Google Scholar, Prospector, Formula Botanica. We end with this thought: the leaves of the tree were made for the healing of the nation. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. It's now question and answer period.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mckenzie. That was an awesome presentation. We love the energy and all the excitement. So we really, really appreciated that. We have some questions in the chat, and so I'll start off with one of the questions that we have. And someone wants to know that if you are storing the papaya for more than a week, how should you handle it? Should it go in the fridge or the freezer? What do you recommend? And how should it be processed?
Okay, so if we want it for more than a week, it means that it would be best that you rehydrate. It means that you're taking out all of the fluids. And once it's rehydrated, it's dried. And so it can be packaged in smaller containers so that you use small portions at a time. You don't have to open the big package too often. And once it's in a cool environment, you can use it at your liberty as often as you so choose in smaller containers. You don't even have to refrigerate it if it's cool. And it can last you up to 3 to 6 months, a year, as a matter of fact, if it's in small containers.
Okay, so can you because I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying to power to make the can you just go over that one more time to make it into a
Okay.
powder
So
instead of
if you're
storing the
using
fruit?
the papaya fruit for the papain, or you're using the green skin for the polyphenols, what you're going to do, you're going to grate them separately, place them in a rehydrator, which is a machine that's used to dry papaya or any fruit for that matter. Once they've been dehydrated, again, it goes in for a long period of time over a processing time. Once it would have been dried, you then package and label them into small containers. Small containers better over large containers, because if you have large containers, it means that you're opening it more often and it makes it more prone to becoming deteriorated much faster.
Okay, thank you. I think that's clear. Okay.
Okay.
So we have another question. It says the papaya at the general food stores tend to have a LPLU number starting with 3, i.e., it means that it's GMO, it's GMO. Can this still be used? And thank you for the excellent presentation.
Welcome. Okay, again, we do not recommend for GMO infiltrated fruits because, again, we're not sure to what extent insecticides, pesticides, or whatever else might be included in those. And so we're not sure exactly how effective it will be. So it's always best to use the organically grown. As a matter of fact, in the Bahamas here, for the most part, they grow in the wild. We don't have to put any fertilizers or insecticides, pesticides on them. They're, for the most part, they're pretty good.
Okay, so you're not recommending using the papayas from the food store. Get
No,
it
I don't.
naturally from your neighbor or friends or
Yes.
in the wild.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so we have if there's anybody else who have any questions, or if you want to put it in the chat, or just raise your hands and we'll recognize you. So just for clarification, you can use the actual fruit, the green fruit or the ripe fruit, because I heard you say process the fruit. Is that the green fruit or is that the ripe fruit?
Okay, if you're talking wound healing, you're talking about the green fruit.
Okay.
The riper the fruit is, then it loses the papain as well as the papain and the polyphenols.
Okay.
And when we're
Awesome.
talking about process, when I said process, I'm talking about the heating process of the rehydrator in order to get the fruit, the moist fruit, to become dried powder fruit extract,
Okay.
papaya fruit extract,
Okay.
or the peel extract.
Okay.
Again, when we're talking wound care, again, how much is used, how often it's used. Again, we also want to keep at the back of our minds the challenge of allergic reactions.
So what is the current recommendation on, I mean, I know I would think that the amount would be based on the size of the wound, but
Yes, for the
how
most part,
often do you
definitely.
recommend persons use it? How often?
Again, every person is different. People have different sensitivity levels. And so using sparingly, first of all, some people might even be allergic to latex. And so those persons may not want to use papaya. And so once it's tested on the skin first, that could be an indication as to whether or not you're allergic. Best suggestion would be to start very, very sparingly. More slough, the more papaya could be applied. But if there's limited slough, the less papaya use.
Just for clarity, so you're saying if the person has a latex allergy, they should not be using the papaya?
It would be better that they try it on the skin first, the clean, normal skin, before putting it onto the wound. So they would have an idea of sensitivity.
Okay. We have a question here, not on papaya, but maybe you can lend an answer to this as well. They want to know about a question about aloe. Can it also be used in wound healing?
Most definitely. Those were the ingredients that we were looking at that assist papaya tremendously. Most certainly, definitely. Yes, that is one included.
Good
Okay.
afternoon.
Good
I have a
afternoon.
question, Dr. Mitchell.
Go ahead, Ms. Ruby.
Okay. In my experience with papaya, right, I realized that doctors ask patients to grate the papaya, put it in the fridge. They don't tell them to take off the seeds or anything. They just tell them to grate it and put it in the fridge. When they bring it to the clinic to put it on the wound, it's basically water-based. And I don't think that's healthy for the skin. What do you think about that?
Could you repeat that question? You're saying that papaya, I'm understanding that when papaya is placed in the fridge, it's regarded as a water-based product.
It freezes, right? It gathers ice.
If it's in
So
the
by the time
fridge,
they bring it to the clinic, by the
I'll
time they take
repeat
it
your
out the
question,
freezer,
Swaby. She's not hearing you well. Swaby, she's not hearing you well. So, Miss Mckenzie, what has happened a lot of times? She's saying that the patients will be instructed to grate the green papaya, the flesh of it, and they usually freeze it. So when they take it out of the freezer and bring it to the clinic, it's like, you know, when you freeze a fruit and it gets all waterlogged, that's the condition of it when it comes to the clinic, and they want to put it on the wound. She's asking, what do you think about that, and what do you recommend?
okay. Usually when I'm not sure, it still has the consistency once it goes into the freezer. It's recommended that if you're using it within 1 week, it's best that it goes into the fridge and then it maintains its consistency. Once it goes into the freezer, it may not quite be the same. And if it's going to be used, it would be better that it's thawed completely before being used. And again, I always, at the end of each presentation, the source from which all information was collected is documented. And based on the source, it is best that if you're going to use it over a longer period of time, that it is rehydrated and dried.
The same person with the aloe wants to know if they can mix the aloe with the papaya.
Again, I've never done it, but I suppose you can try and see what happens. But I've never used that combination because papaya is your desluffer and the aloe would be more of an astringent. So again, you would have to, I cannot speak to that.
Okay. Do we have anybody else who want to ask a question? You can just raise your hand or unmute. Okay, somebody else is asking, how do you get the fruit to dehydrate and be dry? So what you need
There's a
machine.
dehydration machine called a rehydrator, and that would do it for you. It's a machine that does that. Like a baker, similar, but it's a little more high tech.
Mhm. So it's the same process as you would dehydrate a fruit.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
cut it
Any
small
fruit.
pieces and then put it in
Yes.
the dehydrator and
Yes,
let it
ma'am.
completely dry. And then you can
Yes.
blend it or something like that to make it into a powder. And then you store
Yes.
it, like she's saying, in small different containers.
Very clean. It's also a process for cleaning as well.
Okay, wait, hold on, one more. Okay, thank you. So we have a lot so from the studies that you showed, or do you know of any current studies that are going on that talks about because I know you had a question about how long would it be used to be able to take the stuff away and stuff like that. Do you know of any current research that is going on that would be able to answer that question? Because I know a lot of persons want to know how long they would have to use it or some idea, you know? So do you
I
know of
have
any
been,
studies?
okay, I have been researching, and of late, the clinical practices in papaya have slowed down because, again, it's very expensive. And not only that, but because of the last withdrawal, they have stopped. Much studies have ceased with papaya. And that is why we're having a bit of a challenge because of the withdrawal of the past product from the market.
Okay. I do remember when I was in residency years ago, there was a commercial product called Papaya as well, but I don't think it's on the market anymore. So yeah, so maybe that
Yes,
was a
ma'am.
part of
That's
that
one of
process.
them included. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, then we'll prepare to conclude. I know Dr. Johnson had asked for a few minutes to say something, but I don't see him on the call anymore. So we're just gonna move on. Somebody's asking if you use papaya alone or you add antibiotics. I'm not sure what they mean by that, like in the wound. Um, the
Okay, I would have
physician.
covered that a number of beneficial agents could be used. I showed you the shea butter, coconut oil, all of these others could be combined. But again, proportions, remember, correct proportions is paramount when it comes to papaya. So you don't have to limit. We don't. Again, you also I also showed you studies where selenium was actually used with papaya. So other chemicals could be used, but again, in proportions. The professional persons would be able to assist with that.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much. If you could stop sharing, we have some information to share with the group, and then we'll be getting ready to end. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Hold on, let me start the slideshow. Okay, this is our last meeting for the Wound Zoom. Thank you very much for attending. I know I see some persons who have attended all 4 of the sessions, and we're very grateful for your support and your attendance at each of the sessions. So we're very, very grateful for you. These are some of the information that you would need to keep in mind. Thank you. And then, so we have requested continuing education credits for all of the nurses who attend the session and signed in with their names. So we're still pending the approval, but it sounds fair. I haven't gotten the letter yet, but it sounds favorable. The videos for all of the sessions, except the one I missed and forgot to record, will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and that the name of that channel is Feet for Life 242. And then if you have any questions, you can email me at my email, moniquemitchell@bahamas.gov.bs. If you signed in with your phone and didn't sign in with your name, we will not be able to do the continuing education. Only if you signed in with a name, we are able to do that. And then, so we'll send us all of these PowerPoints to all of the persons who registered, who signed in with their email. We will send the PowerPoints as well as that information about the YouTube channel to you, possibly by the end of the week. But we want to see, we saw a lot of interest. Most of the sessions had at least 40 to 50 persons attending each session. Today, I think it was at lowest 34 I saw. So we want to stay in touch. You can send a picture or share a case. If you have a question or concern, we have a cadre of persons who are in wound care that we would be able to share that information with and get you an answer if you need to. You can use my WhatsApp or my email as listed there as possible. I also provided on this email some resources that persons can, because of the interest, that they can use to learn more about wound healing, and most of them are free. This Carry Wound Network is a free virtual conference on this Saturday. You can go to that website and register, and it's absolutely free. WoundCon is also free. You can have it 3 times a year, spring, summer, and fall. Those are the dates, and you can register for it, and you can attend, and you can learn a lot about wound healing and wound care. Wounds Canada also has on their website free seminars and videos and best practices, guidelines, and everything that you can use to learn more about wound healing. And then Saucy, which is spring and fall occurs. These are paid conferences, but you can also attend them and learn a whole lot and get a lot of products. And then this one here is DFOOT International. They also have a lot of videos and webinars and free resources on their website, so you can go to those as well. The Wound Care Education Institute, I know that's the one that PMH uses. They have a conference, Wild on Wounds, in August, and they also have a website. I think they do have free videos there as well. Medline is another resource, and then there are other resources out there, many, many more. Those are only the ones that I have used and that I can definitely recommend for you. These other ones are also free, and you can use them as well. So again, thank you very much for attending the Wound Zoom 2024. We are very happy that you were able to participate and get your questions answered. We will send out all of the PowerPoints and also the link for the videos where you can watch them again. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I say give me about 2 weeks to get your certificate because I don't think I'll be able to get them out this weekend. But give me about 2 weeks before we can get that out. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can just email us. Thank you very much for attending, and we appreciate your support and all that you attended all the sessions. And we're gonna ask Nurse Allen to close us out at this time, if we have no other questions.
Okay, thank you participants for taking time out your day to log on to these events. We also like to thank Dr. Mitchell for organizing this series. It was a wonderful experience for all of those that participated, I'm sure. We'd like to thank all of the presenters, the former one and Mrs. Brown, for her presentation today. A lot was learned, a lot was gained, and I'm sure a lot will be used in our profession. So we'd just like to say thanks again and looking forward for the series next year.
All right. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much. Grateful for the information. Thank you so much. Excellent presentation. So we have a lot of commendations in the chat, well organized and wealth of information. Kudos. Thanks for sending the information. Outstanding series, well done, and thank you for organizing. Great, practical, as well as scientific information throughout the series. Awesome presentation. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate you, and we'll definitely, for everybody who signed in, we will definitely get you your certificate to your emails within the next 2 weeks. And if you have any concerns, just contact us and we'll be happy to assist. Have a good afternoon, everybody.